There's a specific kind of person who buys a Mazda RX-8, not the person who wanted a sports car and settled, not the person who couldn't afford something else. The person who looked at everything else available, the turbocharged inline fours, the V8 muscle, the badge-heavy European coupes, and still chose the RX-8, deliberately, almost stubbornly. That decision says something, and most people who made it can't fully explain why. They'll talk about the rotary engine, the balance, the chassis, but underneath all of that technical language is something they're not saying. Something psychological, something that has less to do with horsepower and more to do with identity. This video is about that something. To understand the RX-8 owner, you have to understand what the car actually is, and more importantly, what it isn't. Mazda introduced the RX-8 inches 2003 as the spiritual successor to the legendary RX-7. It came with a naturally aspirated Renesas rotary engine, a 1.3-liter unit that, by any conventional measure, should not exist. No pistons, no traditional combustion cycle. A spinning triangular rotor inside an epitrochoidal housing, chasing thermodynamic efficiency through geometry rather than brute displacement. Engineers at Mazda had been developing rotary technology since the 1960s, and the RX-8 was their final, most refined statement on the subject. On paper, the numbers were modest, around 232 horsepower in its highest output form. Not particularly fast by modern standards, not turbocharged, not the most practical, and by 2012, it was discontinued entirely, partly due to tightening emissions regulations that the thirsty rotary engine simply couldn't survive. The car died not because the market rejected it, but because the world changed around it. And yet, more than a decade after production ended, people are still buying them, still rebuilding them, still talking about them with a reverence usually reserved for things that cost 3 times as much. That is not normal consumer behavior. That is something else entirely. Carl Jung wrote extensively about the idea of individuation, the psychological process by which a person becomes fully themselves. Not the self that was shaped by external expectations, but the authentic self that emerges when a person stops performing and starts choosing. Jung believed this process required a confrontation with the unconscious, a willingness to acknowledge the parts of yourself that the world never asked you to develop. The RX-8 is, in many ways, a car that rewards that kind of person. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't intimidate in a parking lot. To someone who doesn't know, it looks like a reasonably sporty Japanese coupe from the early 2000s. But to someone who does know, who understands what's under the hood, who has felt the engine climb past 8,000 revolutions per minute in a way no piston engine quite replicates, the car becomes something else, a signal, a private frequency, not broadcast to the world, but recognized by those who share the same sensibility. This is what psychologists call intrinsic motivation. The behavior is driven not by external reward or social validation, but by internal meaning. The person who buys an RX-8 is not optimizing for status. He is optimizing for alignment between what he values and what he chooses. There's a concept in developmental psychology called the personal fable. It describes the deeply held belief, particularly strong in men, that one's own experience is unique, that one sees things others miss, that one operates on a different frequency. In healthy form, this isn't arrogance. It's the psychological foundation of genuine taste, of the person who can walk into a room full of noise and find the one thing worth paying attention to. The RX-8 owner tends to have this quality. He found something in a car that most of the market overlooked. And the fact that most people overlooked it is not incidental, it's part of the point. There is a real psychological satisfaction in recognizing value that others dismiss. It confirms something about yourself. It says, I see clearly. I am not moved by marketing. I follow the signal, not the noise. This isn't pretension. Pretension requires an audience. The RX-8 owner rarely needs one. Consider the engineering for a moment, because it matters psychologically. The Wankel rotary engine, the technology at the heart of every RX-7 and RX-8 ever built, is one of the most philosophically interesting power plants ever mass-produced. Felix Wankel, the German engineer who developed the concept in the 1950s, imagined an engine free from the mechanical compromise of the reciprocating piston. No parts moving against each other violently and repeatedly. A smooth, continuous rotational motion, elegant in its geometry, almost meditative in its operation. The engine has real weaknesses. It is notoriously difficult to seal. It consumes oil by design. It demands high-octane fuel, regular warm-ups, and a mechanical literacy that most modern car ownership has made unnecessary. Neglect it, and it will fail. Respect it, and it will sing. This dynamic, the engine as a relationship, not just a tool, creates a specific psychological bond between owner and machine. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi spent decades studying what he called optimal experience, the mental state that emerges when a person is fully engaged in a task that demands real skill and offers real feedback. He called it flow. And one of his consistent findings was that mastery, the process of developing genuine competence in something difficult, is among the most reliable sources of deep satisfaction available to human beings. The RX-8 demands mastery. It does not forgive complacency, and for a specific kind of person, that demand is not a burden, it is the entire point. There's a reason this car found such a devoted following among engineers, mechanics, and technically minded professionals. Not because they needed a project car, but because they needed a relationship with complexity that their daily lives didn't offer enough of. Erik Erikson, in his work on adult development, described one of the central tensions of mature adulthood as generativity versus stagnation, the drive to create, to build, to leave something meaningful, versus the quiet despair of a life lived on autopilot. The man who spends his weekend diagnosing an apex seal issue, who learns the cooling circuit, who understands exactly why the flooding procedure exists and how to execute it, that man is not wasting his time. He is solving something. Building competence. Participating in a tradition of mechanical knowledge that stretches back generations. The RX-8 gives him a reason to keep learning, and that matters more than most people realize. There is also something worth saying about the cultural moment in which this car arrived, and the one in which it disappeared. The early 2000s were the last period in which automakers were still building genuinely unusual machines for the mainstream market. The RX-8 was rear-wheel drive, mid-front engine, naturally aspirated, with a free-revving power plant that required driver engagement at every moment. It had 4 seats and rear-hinged back doors, a practical element that Mazda added almost apologetically, as if they knew it would confuse people. The car refused to be categorized. By 2012, the market had moved decisively toward turbocharged efficiency, driver assistance systems, and the kind of performance that arrives instantly and requires little from the person behind the wheel. The rotary engine, with its insistence on mechanical attention and high RPM commitment, was incompatible with that direction. Mazda killed it, but the people who loved it didn't move on so easily. Because what they loved was not simply the car, it was what the car represented. A refusal to simplify. A machine built around a philosophy rather than a market survey. An object that said, quietly but clearly, that excellence and strangeness are not mutually exclusive. In a culture that increasingly optimizes for convenience, that message lands differently than it used to. It lands harder. It means more. Attachment theory, originally developed by John Bowlby to describe the bond between infants and caregivers, has been extended by researchers to understand how adults form emotional connections with objects, places, and systems that provide consistency and a sense of self. We attach to things that reflect us, things that reward our investment, things that have, in some sense, known us through difficulty. A well-maintained RX-8 is that kind of object. It has history, it has survived decisions about maintenance, about commitment, about whether to sell it when the market undervalued it, or hold it because you understood what it was. The owner who has kept one running knows things about that car that no manual fully captures. He has a private knowledge, a earned intimacy. And that intimacy is its own kind of currency, not the kind you display, the kind you carry. It would be easy to romanticize all of this, to turn it into a mythology of the misunderstood genius, the lone engineer against the world. That's not what this is. The psychology here is quieter than that, more ordinary. More human. Most RX-8 owners are not trying to make a statement. They are simply people who found something that matched their inner frequency, their preference for depth over surface, for mastery over convenience, for the specific pleasure of understanding how something actually works and making it work better. They are people who, when confronted with a machine that the market said was impractical, heard something different. They heard a challenge. They heard a conversation worth having. Abraham Maslow placed self-actualization at the peak of his hierarchy, not wealth, not status, not comfort, but the full expression of one's capacities. The pursuit of meaning through the exercise of genuine ability. It is the rarest achievement on his pyramid, and it requires, above all else, the willingness to be honest about what you actually value, not what you're supposed to value, not what earns the most approval, but what makes you feel most fully alive. The RX-8 is not a car for everyone. It was never meant to be. It was meant for the person who would rather understand a difficult thing completely than own an easy thing impressively. That distinction matters. It matters in how people live, in how they work, in what they build, and what they walk away from. The car becomes, for its owners, a kind of ongoing proof of a value system. Every oil check, every cold start warm-up, every careful rev to operating temperature is a small act of commitment to a philosophy that things worth having require something from you. Not everyone is willing to pay that price. Not everyone wants to. And the RX-8 owner, at some level, knows that. He's not bothered by it. He made his choice a long time ago, in a quiet moment, standing in front of a car that most people walked past. He didn't choose it to be seen. He chose it to recognize himself.